What socio-political events shaped 1970s horror movies? Imagine a decade filled with upheaval, mistrust, and change. The horror films of the 1970s didn't just aim to scare. They reflected the chaos and fears of the time. The Vietnam War was still fresh in people's minds, and television brought images of violence into homes. This made audiences more aware of the real dangers and uncertainties outside their doors. Films like Night of the Living Dead used zombies as symbols of societal collapse and the breakdown of authority. The ending, where the hero is mistaken for a monster and killed by a mob, echoed the feelings of helplessness many felt during that period. At the same time, the civil rights movement was reshaping America. The fact that Night of the Living Dead featured a black protagonist was a bold move. His tragic fate at the hands of a white mob highlighted racial violence and systemic injustice. Horror movies started to use monsters and threats as stand-ins for societal outsiders, reflecting fears about race, ethnicity, and social differences. These films weren't just about scares. They were commenting on real social tensions. The sexual revolution and second-wave feminism also influenced horror stories. Films like Rosemary's Baby and The Stepford Wives explored fears about women's independence and reproductive rights. They often showed women fighting against oppressive forces, whether supernatural or human. The idea of the final girl, a resourceful young woman surviving the killer, became a symbol of resilience and vulnerability. It showed that women could be both victims and survivors, reflecting changing gender roles and fears. Economic struggles and urban decay played a big role too. The 1970s faced oil crises, inflation, and city decline. Horror movies like The Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Dawn of the Dead used rural and urban settings to mirror fears of isolation and societal breakdown. These films often featured graphic violence, echoing the brutal headlines of the time. They made viewers confront the chaos happening in their neighborhoods and cities. Relaxed censorship rules allowed filmmakers to push boundaries. Movies like The Exorcist shocked audiences with graphic scenes of possession and bodily horror. These films tapped into fears about losing control and the collapse of traditional values. Even television horror movies, aimed at families, addressed fears about the home, technology, and the unknown. They made horror feel close to home, personal, and immediate. Understanding these social and political influences helps explain why 1970s horror movies are so intense and meaningful. They weren't just meant to scare. They were a mirror of the fears, tensions, and hopes of a turbulent era. These films used monsters and chaos to comment on real issues, making horror a reflection of society itself.